And good morning to everyone. I'm Roy Potter. Welcome to the Potter Expositor. Today is the 23rd of August, 2018. Welcome everyone as you come in. Let me make sure all my settings are okay here. The storm has done some damage, but I think we have a good internet connection. So we'll just proceed, and I'll just be watching the gauges here and these other things and making sure that, we've got it okay. Again, welcome everybody. I do have the chat on. I'm double checking that right now. Yeah, it's definitely on. Yeah, I noticed somebody's already say, Will Wilson, that was well timed considering I didn't get notified. Yeah, this censorship thing is really, really kicking into high gear. President Trump, of course, has now addressed it and said that something has to be done about it. We might talk about that in a little while, but tell us some good news. Robert Fish. God's in his heaven, but I'm not sure all's right with the world. There are sages who say that everything is just as it should be, and I have to agree with that because this isn't supposed to be heaven here. It's what we make it, and it's a school. It's where we come to learn. A lot of people that don't want to hear spiritual talk don't want to hear that, but there's a lot of truth to that. At least I feel that way, considering what I've watched and seen and heard and been a part of for many, many years. If all of this is for nothing, it wasn't worth it in the first place. They say it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved before. I'm not so sure that's true. And it might be for life, too. If all this is for nothing, wow. I guess we could still be thankful for the time, for whatever that is. But my own personal opinion, of course, is that the good news is that God is in heaven and that he is... However, and I know I'm using, he, instead of just God in a general term, but the fact of the matter is, that's how I view it, and it's a pattern. I'll just put it that way. It's a system that he abides by, or actually created, of course. Anyway, that gets into too much stuff. That's the good news, I would say. Yeah, Internet Bill of Rights, Roy, free speech. Yeah, there's a lot going on, and unfortunately, this should have been nipped in the bud by the Justice Department. But you can see Sessions not moving on it. No, Sessions is not a good guy, and that's kind of why I'm inviting our guest in today. He should be calling in here in about 6 to 8 minutes. Let me give you a little rundown on him so that you'll know who we're waiting for here. When Q started, there was a guy by the name, he went by Baruch the Scribe. Now, Baruch the Scribe was actually, in the Bible, he was the scribe for Jeremiah. Baruch means blessed. You are blessed type thing. And of course, it was just his name. He was kind of, as I don't know if he had that before, but he definitely used it as this to kind of go along with the Q thing, to be the scribe, so to speak, for Q, to give him a place to write. That's how I would view what he did. Anyway, that was the name that he went by on 4chan and other places, was Baruch the Scribe. His real name is Paul Ferber, and I wouldn't have brought that out except that it's made the news. Pamphlet Anon, Coleman Rogers, and Tracy Beans, Tracy Diaz have all been named by NBC and several other places. So, I figure, well, it's common knowledge now. Before I wouldn't say that because I felt like it was his privacy issues, and I didn't want to bring it up. But at any rate, he was there at the very start, along with apparently Pamphlet Anon and some others. And as you know, a few weeks ago, basically I addressed Tracy Beans, Paul Ferber, and even Jordan Sather, although I didn't expect much from Jordan. But I said to them, we need to get this straightened out. This is out of hand. And as things progress now, we see that it's even worse. We see some really bad things. Now, I'm not going to have Paul talk about what's happened since January 5th when he comes on. That's not what we're going to do. We're not going to rehash his technical data, just in case he's watching right now. I want him to know where we're going with this. We're not going to talk about the technical data. All that's been exposed now for anybody that wants to look at it. all the information on who was involved and that type of thing, by and large, with a couple of exceptions, which we're waiting to have outed here very shortly, which is coming, Paul. And what I wanted to do is I look at Paul in this thing as being a genuine person. I have to look at it that way. I don't have any evidence to suggest otherwise. I think Paul's concerns were pedophilia, were the problems with things in the world, with the cabal, the New World Order, all of that. I believe that was the case. And whatever he thought this Q thing was, I believe he thought it was legitimate and a good thing at the time. But and of course, I looked at it when it came out, and I went, "Wow, yeah, this looks pretty good. It's a little odd. I don't quite understand why they're doing it this way." And I've talked about that ad infinitum. I don't want to take a lot of time up explaining my point on it, but I gave it a chance the first 3 to 6 weeks, and then I could see some problems, how it was developing, and of course, as everyone knows, by January 7th at the DEF CON ridiculous statement by Q and by the Q folks, B in particular, I was done. And I didn't want to fight against Q. I didn't want to oppose it necessarily. But I had to eventually, of course, because it represents a really clear and present danger to Trump supporters and the MAGA movement generally. And I'm not going to go into all of that today. What I want to talk about with Paul is what it was in reality that got him involved. Well, that's where we're going with this, and I want his worldview and how that ties in with what he did. And I'm going to ask a specific question of him during the interview that has to do with something that he said back. He may have said it right from the start, but I do know that on the Discord he talked about a particular thing for some time, and we discussed it to some degree. And I'm going to bring that up to him, but I'm not going to tell him what it is yet because I need to make sure that he is asked this question without getting any preparation. Okay, so that's where we're going. He should be calling any time now. We'll wait. The reason why I named this video "The Insurance Policy" was not just the dossier, is because we're seeing an entire. We've seen it all along. The dossier was kind of like, the centerpiece of the op plan, the operations plan, the basic concept that would drive the thing forward. But there were a lot of other things in the background. Of course, the IC spying on not just Trump, but Trump supporters. We know that Brennan, for instance, was spying on the Senate Intelligence Committee, etc. And that was some time ago, but it kind of shows you where this thing was headed. The IC has always been about protecting itself, not the nation, okay? And so the insurance policy was ensuring that they stay in power, and how they were going to do that was by a multi-pronged attack on anybody who stood against them. And that means you and me as well. So there are a lot of things that are at work here. And Katie Hopkins, I saw that Bill Still this morning, I think he put it up, it may have been last night. Katie Hopkins is a British actress, political activist, etc., who gave a talk, and I'd like you to go see that he put up last night. It's called Katie Hopkins, Don't Let America Fall. It's on the Bill Still report. You need to go listen to that. Because that's exactly the case. Now, like they say, they don't agree with everything she says, but it's her overall message that's so important there. And so this multi-pronged effort has been the illegal immigration, the attack on our institutions, meaning the Constitution of the United States, not all the things that Brennan means when he says that. Teaching our kids these leftist Marxist deals in school. It's really funny. You can't talk about Christianity, but they want to tell you about how Islam works. They want to tell you about China, but they won't tell you about the Constitution. I think everybody understands that. This has been a massive attack across the spectrum, full spectrum dominance against the principles that abide the perfect law of liberty, which is what our country was really about. We haven't been very good at it because we became very greedy. We became adventurous, we became imperialistic, and you always, in any organization, have those that you cannot trust, that are going to bend the system to their own purposes. But that's what the Constitution was supposed to prevent, was that type of thing. But it's been an onslaught across the board, Operation Mockingbird, and then, of course, the situation with the NDAA in 2013 saying it was legal for them to propagandize. Congress said it was legal for them, the IC, to propagandize the American people, and then they funded it a year and a half or 2 years later. They actually funded this thing, like the CIA needs any more money. So there's that. And then, of course, there's the entire situation with, when I say the invasion, yeah, I'm going to say the jihadists, absolutely. If all these people that talk about wanting to understand the Islamic religion have never read the Quran, don't understand what it's about, and I'll probably get banned for this, and that's okay. Like I said, the only reason why I think they're keeping me on, by the way, here we go, jumping around again, is because they like to keep an eye on what I'm saying. they like. I've had a couple of my videos taken down, of course, but they haven't actually issued a ban or anything like that. But it's probably because they want to see what old Potter's talking about. So that's probably the reason why. But at any rate, so there's been this entire attack, and of course the coup against Trump is in fact what they hope will be the coup de grace, against Trump and the conservative constitutional movement. The attacks by jihadis allowed to come in. Laura Loomer's been all over that, as well she should, and so is Matt Bracken, if you guys follow them at all. Sweden is falling apart. We're seeing that the invasion is destroying Western Europe. We're going to get, we see what's happening in South Africa. Then that's not really jihadist, but it does show that there is, whether people like it or not, a worldwide effort to go about white genocide. Now, I've talked about that before, but that's one of the things I want to get into with Paul, since he's from South Africa. And then, of course, we see this entire illegal movement, the illegal immigrant, illegal alien movement by the Democratic Party and by the leftist Marxists, which is an invasion. It's to fundamentally transform America. It's exactly what it is, and we're destroying our culture to bow down to someone else's, and that's not how it's supposed to work. So we've got that problem, and not just from the jihadist side of things, but also from all of these drug cartels, gangs, etc., that are coming up from the South that Trump's trying to stop. It's the only thing that Jeff Sessions has done with any degree of efficiency, and I even question that. But at any rate, so that's where we are today. That's what we're going to talk about. And like I say, I expect Paul to call any minute now, I hope. I confirmed with him 2 days ago that he was going to be on. He said yes, and then he said, well, I won't reveal that, but he asked for the time and all of that, and so I gave it to him. But with all of the things that are going on in the news right now, I'm just going to say this, Paul, if you're listening, okay, because you were supposed to have called by now. With all the things that are happening in the news and all that, he might know that I'm going to be asking some very, very pointed questions. And I'm just going to say it, Paul. I have a lot of respect for you. I think you had good intentions, but we need to clean this up, Paul. We need to clean it up. What's happened in the last few days, and I don't even want to talk, like I said, anything about what happened after January 7th. I really don't want to do that. But we're seeing the narrative, the Q narrative, totally destroyed right now. And as Alex Jones has often said, a broken clock is right twice a day. Well, Q hasn't even been that effective, and you know it. Okay, here he is. Great. I'm glad he's listening. Hello, sir. How you doing? I can hear you real well, Paul. Thank you for calling. I appreciate that. Let me... Oh, good. No, I don't have mods, so I can't pay attention to my chat as well as I'd like. That's just unfortunately. Let me put you on speakerphone. Oh, go ahead. Well, that's okay. I'm sure we can manage. Let me put you on speakerphone so everybody can hear you. Okay, I think we got it, Paul. Can you hear? Can you hear me? Okay.
I can hear you perfectly.
Okay, and let's see if the people in the chat hear you too. Would you folks why don't you tell us about your cafe a little bit, Paul? And you don't have to tell us where you are, but if it's a sunny day, if it's you got a lot of people there, you know.
It's a lovely day. I live in Johannesburg, South Africa, and I'm currently about a block away from my place of work, which is not very far away. I ride a motorcycle, so I'm only about 10 minutes away from work, which is very handy. The traffic in this town isn't that great, but so I got myself a new job, which is doing enterprise software development for a large corporate in Johannesburg. I started at the beginning of the month. Very challenging. It's a massive project, and I'm looking at this big code base which I've never seen before. So that is my new line of work, is doing software there. Well, I've always done software development as work, but this is a new contract that I've taken over at the beginning of the month. Otherwise, I'm still writing my book. I'm on chapter 12. I'm on 30,000 words. I've got another 20,000 to go, and just having fun. I hope you're well. How's the golf?
Well, it's okay. I was just going to say everybody's saying that the sound is okay, but you're cutting in and out, but you've already explained the reason for that, so hopefully people understand that we'll just have to deal with it. You're calling from a very far distance away, and you're very kind to call me direct. You know, you and I have had some great conversations talking about golf and motorcycles. That's interesting. We have some very similar enjoyments. I guess I'll put it that way, because those are definitely mine as well. So you said one day that hopefully we can play a game of golf together. I don't know how we'll manage that, but who knows? You know, you never know.
Yeah, hopefully.
Well, why don't we get into this? I don't want to take a whole lot of your time. This might be costing you money, and I apologize for that. You know, I'm low tech, so I don't want to waste a whole lot of your time. But I want to get right into this. And my plan is that, Paul, if it's okay with you, we're not going to talk about what happened after January 7th, because I think you and I agree basically that's been a problem since then and possibly before. What I'd really like to do is I would like to, I don't want to get into the details of the techs, the IT information, because a lot of that has come out. I think if you've been watching what's been happening, a lot of folks have been showing the details about that. And if you were listening to me at the opening of this, I am convinced that you are not a bad actor in this, and I told you that before. However, I think that you have suffered what happens in corporations, in business, and that is that you were a victim of a hostile takeover, basically is what I think happened. And so I'd like to approach, basically, you may not be able to talk about this, but I think these types of things need to be cleared up. I know when Tracy Beans got involved, I was right there when I saw that happen. I was actually in contact with her when all that was occurring. However, the subject of Pamphlet and Coleman Rogers is a whole nother situation. How did you two get into contact, and what would make you think that you could trust a guy like that? Let's start there.
Yeah, good one. So, let's see now. When did I get in touch with him? The first time I spoke to Pamphlet was...
You might have to speak up a little bit because you're really low, even with my speakerphone all the way up.
Sorry, how's this? I've got the phone right up to my mouth now.
Much better, much better.
Okay, great stuff. Let me do this instead. When did I first speak to Pamphlet? Pamphlet, I must have spoken to on about the 15th or the 16th of December. So that was when I locked Q out of the board in order to make him change his trip code. This is on my board on 8chan now on CBCS. So yeah, it was semi-accidental. I made the board anonymous because I forced anonymous because we were getting attacked like crazy. We were doing some very good digging on Anderson Cooper, on the media, on an organization called Gannett. There was a lot of fighting about debating, the preparation of the discussion threads. There was chills coming in from Share Blue, from elsewhere. It was just, a group is its own worst enemy in many cases, and this just got out of hand. So I just cracked down. I locked the board, and I thought at the time, in fact, I was talking to another guy on the tour who said, who was an 8chan expert. No, just make it forced anonymous, and your trip code users will still be able to post. Well, they couldn't. So Q was locked out of the board. And then I realized, oh dear, he was locked out of the board, but also somebody was attempting to crack his trip code password. So I thought, I'm going to leave the board locked until he changes it. And if he doesn't change it and go away, too bad. So I just went AWOL for about 36 hours, and then he changed his password. He logged into poll. He went onto 8chan poll, the 8chan poll board, changed it, and then I reopened, I reset the board to let, anyone post. And then I went onto the Discord server where these guys were chatting. And that would have been Pamphlet, Abobo, Farmer Funk, those guys. And they asked me what the hell I thought I was doing, and I explained the situation. So that was the first time I actually spoke to Pamphlet, was 16th of December, I would say 16th or 17th.
Now wait a sec. What? Okay. Why did you go on to Infowars with him? Why did you do that?
Well, because I trusted him at the time.
But okay. You had never met him before. Okay. How did you discuss things with him? Was it just through the internet, or did you ever meet him in person? Did you ever know anything about this guy before you took him into your confidence?
No, not a thing, Roy. I mean, it was.
Wow.
I mean,
like I said, Paul, this is a hostile takeover. You really opened yourself up to some bad shit here. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you.
Yeah, no. Well, my view of the timeline is slightly different to most people's, and I think it's an informed one. Is that let me just give the 40,000 foot view. So Q dropped on 4chan, and that is unquestionable. There's too many hardcore proofs. So, for instance, he predicted the president's Twitter would be taken down.
Okay, I'm going to hold you right there, Paul. I'm going to hold you right there.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to get into that, and there's a reason for it, and it's because, like I said, a broken clock is right twice a day. A lot of that stuff could have been sourced. We already know about the Twitter keys. We already know about the news agencies and the way they're able to get information. I don't want to get into the particulars of that. What I'm looking for here is to exonerate you from what's coming down the pike. That's really what I'm trying to do. So let's do this. If this was an MI operation run by President Trump, it's one of the poorest, sloppiest operations I've ever seen in my entire life, in my entire career. Okay? And that's from the very start. That's from the very start. So what I would like to do, let's jump to this. This is after the 7th. You and I discussed this on Discord. I want to know what you mean by the revelation. When is that going to happen, and what is it?
Well, the revelation is that most world leaders are Satanists and murder and sacrifice children, and always have done. That's going to be the revelation.
And and you thought that would probably happen by July? That's when you've kind of figured that was the time period that would occur?
No, it was my time. Look, deadlines in a president's diary mean nothing. It's a full-on race to the finish. Whoever gets there first. I still think that the Iranian regime will change by the end of September. I think the mullahs will be forced out by the people. And then the next hard deadline is the midterms. And either just before or just after the midterms, the president is going to impose martial law in the United States. And he will be perfectly entitled to impose martial law. And then the indictment will be unsealed, and on January the 1st, the tribunals will start, and all of this will come out.
Okay.
That's my current timeline. It could be wrong.
Okay, so that's the revelation you're talking about, is the unveiling of the pedophile network. That's what you were basically talking about.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Okay. I have a question on that then. President Trump has said, one of the things that Q started off of very early on, we could talk about the fact that Hillary was never arrested, but Essa was never arrested, despite the early on posts in November, like the 3rd. And the roundups were supposed to start there. I'm not as concerned about that as I am about this thing about disinfo is necessary. One of the things that Trump said is that he would never lie to us, and yet Q saying that disinfo is necessary is saying that lying is necessary. So we have a mutually exclusive situation here that this cannot be President Trump, or if it is, he's untrustworthy.
Yeah, that's a very good point. What you do need to do is go back to the original sources of Q's drops on 4chan. There's a lot of things. Q said that Hillary would be arrested. No, he didn't. He said that measures were in place to prevent her from running. Some other...
Oh, no, wait a minute, Paul. I've seen the posts. The posts early on the 3rd of November.
Have you read them? Let's have a look here. The very first post, right at the bottom of my archive here. Some anon says Hillary Clinton will be arrested between 7:45 a.m. and 8:30 a.m. That's not Q. Q replies to this post under a different ID and says...
Under a different ID?
Yeah.
So how do we know who is who here? This is the problem with a faceless anon, right?
Well, no, because...
You can write your own script and then you can play all parts.
No, you had a whole lot of 4chan anons watching this like a hawk. So the anonymous guy, whose ID is GB953GQI, in the same thread, and again, if you click these links, they'll take you to the archive, and you can read the post for yourself in context. Very important. Q replies to this guy and says Hillary's extradition is in motion, effective yesterday with several countries in case of a cross-border run. He did not say that Hillary would be arrested.
Yeah, but there wasn't even an extradition at that point in time. That wasn't true either.
Well, no, how do we know?
Well, it's obvious. Why would you need an extradition? That's out of the... By the way, and I think... Again, I want you to understand, Paul, I'm putting you on the spot here because there are things coming down the pike, and we need to know exactly, where you sit. And so I'm very concerned. I appreciate the fact that you're not an American, but you have such a strong loyalty to the perfect law of liberty. You hate pedophiles, which is exactly right. But I got to tell you, okay, and I've spent a lot of time on this now, as you very well know, all right? For you to have found the Q on the 4chan and to figured out how this thing worked, when this government insider could have done this without your permission, is beyond me. And I think it's beyond most of the people that have examined this very closely. So I appreciate the fact that you wanted information out there that would help people to understand what's happening, but it got off the tracks way too fast. And the mere fact that you had a hostile takeover from somebody else that you've never met in your life tells me that you're not being careful enough. And that you were somewhat, and pardon me for saying this, I know a little bit about your background. You're a brilliant, brilliant man. And I do have a lot of respect for you. But because of that, I think you have some weaknesses. And you wanted this thing to be so true yourself that you were willing to allow somebody like Coleman Rogers to hijack it. Now, it's definitely been used to hurt the MAGA movement. I wrote you that, and I said the White House is very upset about this. Despite what people think, Sarah Sanders said or didn't say. She was addressing a direct question about Q. So the White House is concerned about this movement and what it's caused. And we've seen the end result. Well, not the end result. We see how damaging it's been. So what I want you to do, is I want you to be very, very clear to us about why you thought from the initial posts from this Anon, who didn't post with a trip code at first. What made you think that there was anything reliable about this individual? I don't want to hear about, well, the stuff came true or, whatever. No. What was it that got your attention on it in the first place?
Cool. All right. Well, first, let me defend myself and say that I'm an incredibly hardcore skeptical individual who's been hanging around on 4chan for far too many years. I've seen every manner of laugh that you can possibly imagine. I've actually, if I go back to like FBI Anon, I watched several of FBI Anon's drops live while he was typing. I actually asked him a couple of questions. He got to one of them. I can't remember which one it was. So I've followed Mega Anon. And I've actually debated with her live as well.
I remember that. Yeah,
White House Anon. There was a guy who, for want of a better name, I called HIV Anon, who was telling us about why Europe is being invaded by Islamists. There's, we even had James Alefantis from Comet Ping Pong turn up on a Pizzagate thread live on 4chan and say, "Leave that man alone. You already got someone coming to my shop." Wait, hang on. My shop? Yeah, dude. Fuck off. We know it's you. So, yeah. You want to talk about somebody who watches like leakers on 4chan, I'm your man. Q, in the first week, I must be honest, the first post I ever read for him was the one on the 31st. So Halloween at 11 p.m. EST, so the 11th hour on October the 31st, not an accident, I don't think, was when he hinted that he was posting from a skiff, a secure containment information facility.
Do you know how crazy that is? Do you realize how crazy it is what you just said?
Yeah, completely crazy, utterly nuts. And I can tell you now, the Anons in the thread said, no way, not a chance. Most of them, anyway. Some of them thought, is this for real? And so that was October 31st. That whole week, okay, Q kept dropping things, and people started, people were following along. And then he started saying, there's going to be martial law and mass arrest, and we're taking the country back. And
you realize that there have been people like David Wilcock and Corey Good that have been saying these exact same things for, at least a decade.
Well, quite. And then he also kept mentioning Huma, H-U-M-A, which we all thought was Huma Aberdeen. And he kept talking about Saudi Arabia. And why did Jared Kushner visit Saudi Arabia? Why this? Why that? And, and then, so now I'm watching the news on Friday and on Saturday. Well, first of all, Q says, look, we are fully prepared that social media will be attacked, including the president's Twitter. And then about 4 hours later, the president's Twitter gets deleted. Now that got my attention, big time, very seriously, because that is not something you just make up. The president's Twitter being deleted. That's a serious action to take. And this guy predicts it. Whoa, okay, now I'm paying attention. Then he says, there's going to be a mass arrest, martial law. Friday comes, nothing. Saturday, my time, I woke up late because I was up very late on Friday night reading all this stuff and catching up on it. Saturday, I see the president sends out a tweet to Saudi Arabia saying, yeah, we would love Aramco to invest on the New York Stock Exchange, very important to the U.S. And I thought, I wonder if that's a message to the Saudis. And then later that evening, I see on the news there's mass crackdowns in Saudi Arabia. And Crown Prince Al-Walid bin Talal has been arrested.
okay. And then Q comes on and says, this information is real. This information is necessary. Yes, there were mass arrests and the National Guard and a huge crackdown just in Saudi Arabia.
And what operatives do you think that Q was addressing that this info was necessary? What do you think that was about when this was going to be in the public eye anyway?
That was him misleading us deliberately, so that so that the bad actors wouldn't be alerted.
Okay.
There were mass arrests.
Yeah, they even killed one of the guys in a helicopter. They shot him up.
Yeah, well, that was the guy who was involved in the Vegas shootout.
Right.
Mohammed bin Mukran. He was directly responsible for Vegas.
What makes you say that?
One of Q's later posts. Mm-hmm. He gave the timeline of Vegas in considerable detail, including some stuff that was not public knowledge. So there was that.
Okay, let's go back. Let's go back to one more thing here, okay? Because I think this is critical. Again, I'm not saying that you've thought of this as your own personal ticket to fame, fortune, and all of that. And that's why I preface this, because I really do believe that, Paul. I honestly do. If that were not the case, what happened between you and Pamphlet and the Patriot soapbox, and even Tracy Beans, all of that would not have happened if you were a bad actor. I really don't believe that it would have. So I think that what you saw here, you legitimately thought was real. But now we really have to be willing to do something, and it's important that we do this at this point in time. Okay, I think we have to admit, and it's hard to do. You're writing a book. This is something that you've put your heart and soul into. But in life, we sometimes have big disappointments, and like I said in my message in my video back about 2 weeks ago, right now this is at a critical point where we just have to admit that the thing was a LARP from the beginning, because the security and the welfare of lives in the United States and even across the world are now being affected. You've got to know what's been going on here. I mean, these Q people have really developed a cult. Now, I'm not saying all of them have. Some people just use it for information. But they're actually threatening the lives of people. I mean, they're acting just like Antifa. And what's worse is all of the fingerprints now, and it was probably this way even from the beginning, is that this is being run, and we have the details about it, Paul, that is being run out of OFA, OF, the Washington Pundit, and of course, who has responsibility for Twitter? Who controls Twitter? Hey, one of the Saudi princes. Now, so what we need to do here is we just need to grow up. And I don't mean to insult you. But understand that lives are at stake. The free world is at stake. They're doing everything they can to stop MAGA, and they're getting ready to take Trump down. And more errors in Q's predictions have now caused a major problem. And so I just need to look at it from this point of view. And again, it's not an insult against you. You're a man that had hope in your heart. You saw a possibility that maybe Trump was working behind the scenes to inform his people, which is really unnecessary. He was saying it anyway. The important stuff, not all this stuff that would take us down into these different rabbit holes. So is it a possibility? And I'm not even going to ask you to give the details, but is it a possibility that even you got tricked?
No, Roy. Not for the first 2 months. Not a chance. I mean, you can't make up. I mean, when Q posts like these cryptic military orders to go kidnap a Rothschild, and then 4 days later it happens. you know, the mission was a failure, but be that as it may. But there still was, the detail was just too strong. When this guy posts original pictures taken from Air Force One, and we go digging and we find out that he was flying over Hong Kong at that exact moment, yeah, that's not something you can make up. When
you know that, you know, whoever took that picture violated national security to the point that if that picture were real, and we actually at this point now, Paul, are pretty much aware of where that picture came from and what it is.
Well, yeah, not true. Violate national security, because the president can declassify anything as and when he wants to.
Well, that's right. That's right. That if that's the case, why use Q at all? Okay, so if the president declassified that picture to be sent out by Q to show where he was, that should have been public information, not just from Q, and it wasn't. Q was the one that made that claim. No, Paul, that was not a legitimate picture. It was taken by somebody else in an entirely different situation. That's what we know now.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, it was, Paul. It was. All of this is coming out, Paul. Paul, it's all going to be out. Do you understand what I'm telling you? This is about ready to break big time, because if we don't break it, it's going to break the country, and it might break the world.
No, well, I've been screaming since January the 5th that Q has been taken over, and I haven't changed my position. You can go onto my board, and you will see long, detailed, very strongly worded posts on why the current Q is a bunch of script kiddies.
Yeah.
Q's trip code was cracked, and therefore I was the one who said to Q, you cannot post on 8chan again with any authenticity. Don't do it. I even set up another Chan board in case he wanted to continue posting on Nchan, but he didn't. So, hey, mission was over. That happened to be the day before Admiral Rogers announced his retirement. So, yeah, anyone who's been following Q since January the 5th has been deceived. Before then, I'm sorry, but you cannot fake the president copying and pasting some anon's comment into his Twitter feed while I was watching.
Actually, you can, Paul. We've already proven it. Actually, you can.
Absolute rubbish. Sorry,
no, it's not rubbish. It can be done.
Someone makes a comment about about Andrew McCabe retiring with full benefits, 90 days to go. 10 minutes later, the president tweets that comment out. How are you going to do that? What, are you going to hack the president's Twitter, make him say something that some anon on
Actually, Paul, isn't it true that Twitter has threatened to take down Trump's Twitter account? They have total control over it. We already know about the connections with Washington Pundit and Twitter. We already know about it. We already know about the contact with the Washington-based intelligence firm that was helping to run this thing. See, that's what I'm saying, Paul. There's more here. Maybe you're not aware of some of this. Maybe you should go look at UniRock's. That's probably the best breakdown of what's happened. He's really got some long-winded stuff there, but it's good. You ought to maybe go look at the details.
Very well, and I love him to bits, but he is wrong about it.
Okay. Let's go ahead and say that we're probably not going to be able to budge on this, Paul. But I just want you to keep that in the back of your mind, that this is very important that we get this straightened out. Now, I'm not going to stay on cue here for the next few minutes, because there's another issue that's going on, and I think that you can give us a really good rundown on this. We'll talk again some other time. I want you to understand again, Paul, I have a lot of respect for you. I like what you went out to try to do. I don't believe you're a bad actor, and I believe that you had some really bad people take advantage of you and to steal this from your control, okay? I totally agree with that. And look at me here if you can see me. I'm dead serious about that, and I think you can understand it. But we have this other situation now that's developing. If you've watched me talking over the last little while, I've talked about the invasion that's going on, of course, with the illegal immigrants, illegal aliens, with the jihadists, etc. But there's another aspect of this, and it has to do with what's happening in your country in South Africa right now. And I know you know what I'm talking about. Since you're there, and I'm sorry to get off the Q thing, but I also consider this to be very important. This is why Q is a problem for me, because it gets us off the really, really nasty stuff that's happening in the world. It gets our mind off of it. What is going on in South Africa? Are we getting bad information in the U.S.? Notice that the president just told Pompeo that he wants him to look into it. My God, this has been going on for how long? And they're just going to look at it? Now, Laura Loomer, I'm sorry, you know how I am. I pull a lot of things in here. Laura Loomer says, but wait a minute, we don't want to get dragged into South African problems. We've got those problems here, and they're going to get worse. And I agree with that. But if we're not aware of how this entire operation is proceeding, and it's a white genocide in South Africa, in Western Europe, and they're trying to instigate it in the United States. Anybody with a brain who's willing to look at it, you know, in an open-minded way, no matter what color, race, religion, or whatever they are, they've got to understand that that's what's happening. So that's why I want to talk about what's happening in South Africa. Can you give us a rundown on your personal feelings about what the situation is there? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Great question. I first of all, just to say, I completely agree with you. South Africa is a harbinger for both what has been planned for Europe and planned for the U.S. We're kind of on the front line here. Again, you need to, you know, what I'm going to say, if you don't believe it, then that's tough, but it is the truth. Remember that countries tend to be manipulated by their elites, and the elites are not the politicians. They are the people above the politicians, the men behind the curtain. So, you know, the guys that are way up in the hierarchy. Politicians are just controlled, just like Obama and Hillary are controlled by their masters, their paymasters, or were. The strings were cut on November the 4th last year, but hey. So here, yeah, it's the old Luciferian principle of ad chaos order, out of chaos order. So there are a number of things going on here. I've been watching with some alarm for a few years now the attempts to engineer chaos, and I see them all over the place. I mean, we have one of the highest murder rates in the world, okay? Mm-hmm. The white farmer murder rate is double that. So yes, white farmers are very susceptible to being killed, and they are being killed at a ridiculous rate, probably higher than, you know, even places like Venezuela and Colombia. It is very bad. Secondly, there is at least some circumstantial evidence that the government is involved. I've seen a video clip where some farm invaders are caught on CCTV. One of them has a government-issued cell phone jammer. Now, you don't just pick those up from the corner store. They have to be issued by the government. So, yeah, that's a little hint that maybe the powers that be are behind some of it. We have the leader of an opposition political party saying publicly that he has not called for the slaughter of all whites yet.
Yet?
Openly.
He actually said yet. You know, there was a guy, I hate to interrupt you on your story. Yeah, there was a guy, I think he was running for mayor. He's in the mayor's office in Austin, Texas, and he said there were some people at a rally about taking, you know, the guns away, and this was an anti-gun rally, and he said, well, your signs are right, but not yet. He said the same thing. We're going to do it, but not yet. So the South African guy actually said that he's not talking about killing whites yet.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow. So how do you feel? You know, and I know probably sounds like a ridiculous question, but you know, President Putin in Russia has said that people in South Africa, the farmers in particular, who want to immigrate, I mean, it's almost an impossibility, and I understand that how difficult it is. But do you feel like you need to get out of there?
Sorry, I'm just trying to get my headphones to work again. Just hang on a second.
That's all right. No problem.
Can you still hear me?
I can. Actually, better.
Oh, great. Sorry about that. The headphone just popped out of the jack. Look, I could quite easily live in the U.S. I've traveled it extensively. I have been to most states, and I love the country. And I've studied the country and its politics for many years, as you can probably guess. So I'd have no problem living in the US, but I would prefer to stay here and make things work. That just this engineering, all of this social engineering gets a bit much, you know. I mean, our currency is being messed around with. We have the World Bank and China hovering around saying they can give us loans. That's never a good sign. We have opposition parties openly calling for the slaughter of all whites at some stage. Mm-hmm. We have the ruling party saying that they're going to expropriate, you know, white land without compensation. That's completely illegal under the Constitution. They haven't changed the Constitution. They cannot change the Constitution without a two-thirds majority. And the two-thirds majority has been steadily slipping away from them in the last few general elections. In the municipal elections last year, the ruling party got its butt handed to it because, you know, the opposition parties made tremendous gains. Obviously, that's a bad thing for the men behind the curtain who want to engineer, you know, more chaos. So they've been messing with the opposition parties. We had a very suspicious outbreak of bird flu about 18 months ago. In the middle of nowhere, we suddenly had one of the most virulent strains of bird flu, which wiped out half the chickens in the Karoo. Now, chicken is a staple diet for the majority of the population here. So suddenly the chicken price has doubled. That's not good.
No.
Last year we had one of the worst outbreaks of listeriosis in history, when a whole lot of meat was found to be contaminated, cold meat coming out of one of our suppliers. Again, you know, you don't have to be all that conspiratorial just to notice the results, that the populations are being stirred up against each other. In fact, it's a matter of public record that British PR firm Bell Pottinger was being paid an absolute fortune every month to stir up racial tension by the Guptas, who are these shady Indian financiers who are behind the president and who have basically corrupted almost all of our institutions, including the major parastatals, the revenue service, the most of industry. I mean, yeah, they fled the country a few 6 months ago or so, but they hired this PR firm in the UK to basically spread racial tension. I mean, it's an easy thing to do. And it's sad, really, because the middle class in this country, race is actually not an issue. And I can tell you that, you know, in a big rural country, in a big urban setting like Johannesburg, especially in a corporate environment, race is just a non-issue anymore. It's because the middle class make it work. We now have a black middle class, which is burgeoning and has been for, you know, it's now the end of 20 years of hard work. That's great. My kids are completely colorblind. They went to completely integrated school. My church is completely colorblind. It's just not an issue. Everyone just wants to get on with it. But because we have this criminal superclass and a criminal, should we say, a criminal class at the very bottom, you know, they work together to squeeze the middle, which doesn't bode well if I know my history of South America, and I think I do. You know, for the economy, and our economy is battling. We've shed hundreds of thousands of jobs. I think our GDP has contracted in the last 5 years by something like 30%, and that's just because the country's been looted by the elites. So we're a long way from being Venezuela, but I mean, here I am in a very westernized setting, you know, with cafes all around and a lovely sunny day. But yeah, civilization is fragile. It can be destroyed very quickly. So yeah, I'm not happy about what's going on here. And I'm glad that President Trump has mentioned something. I think that's him giving notice to the elites behind South Africa. Hey, I can see what you're doing.
Right.
And I'm going to go there if you don't knock it off. So here's hoping.
Well, let's hope that he also solves it here at this country, because, as you know, what you described just now is exactly what's happening in the United States and Western Europe.
Yeah, well, quite.
Hey, Paul, I don't want to keep you any longer. I just want to. I'm going to go ahead and shut us down now. Not the transmission, but let you go, because I'm sure this is costing you money, and you've been
not too bad.
Well. You're so good to do this, and I appreciate it so very, very much. You know, I sound pretty hard, but I hope you do understand I have a lot of respect for you. I hope we can talk again soon, and I want to take you up on that golf game. And maybe if you ever get to the U.S., like I said, I doubt I'll ever get to South Africa. But if you ever get to the U.S., maybe we can take a motorcycle tour. Yeah. Okay. Well, all right, Paul, thank you for all the information. Again, some things are coming down the pike. Be aware of that, and you know, help us to get through this if you can, okay?
Thanks, man.
Hey, thanks, Paul. Out here for now, okay?
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Out here. All right, folks. Wow, that turned out, that was very nice of him to take the thing. He's actually, I don't have Discord here. He asked me once before when we did that interview back a few months ago that, you know, we use a Discord and then do it on the phone. But like I said, my internet connection is just not up to some of this. So, you know, we're still in the Stone Age in this area pretty much. And that's why I have so much trouble with the internet connection as it is. So Paul, he was very good to go and provide us with that information. I think you can see what's happening here. And I don't want to put words in Paul's mouth, but I think he's a little concerned as well. He wants all that early on Q information to be good, but obviously there are some problems, and we just have to admit to ourselves, I think, that a lot of us have been taken in by the hope rather than the reality. So I'm not going to bang on the, you know, I'm not going to keep pounding on the Q people right now, but we really have to get back to MAGA. We never needed Q. We need to get back to MAGA. We need to watch Trump's tweets. Trump is in a lot of trouble right now. I'm sorry, but the plan, the supposed plan, it didn't work. Okay, it didn't work, which means it didn't exist in the first place. And we're looking at some tough things. Trump is looking real positive. He's doing real well. You know, they consider that the midterm elections might turn out all right. But this is war, ladies and gentlemen. This isn't politics. And I've been saying that for a long time. President Trump is not in a political, ideological debate. He is in an actual war. And so are we. And we better realize that and stop sitting behind our screens here thinking that somebody in the Trump's administration has got this all under control and everything's going to be okay. Manifestly untrue. Manifestly untrue. Trump does not govern the executive branch of the United States. He just doesn't. He's doing what he can, but the infiltration of the evil side that wants to take away your personal liberty has gained not just a foothold, but an entire fortified fort in our government. And there's only one way to take it out. And unfortunately, Trump's going to have to act on that. I just hope that the midterms go well enough so that he can do it in some relative safety for him and for the rest of us. Okay, before I go to chat, I got to mention Molly Tibbetts, I'm afraid. This is a real tragedy. I couldn't believe what Elizabeth Warren said the other day, that we don't need to worry about Molly Tibbetts. We need to worry about all the other people that are being kept from their families, all the other kids that are being kept from their families. I hope everybody sees the demonic character of a witch like that one. As somebody mentioned in a comment, the people that lost their kids did so by choice, by and large. Some of them were kidnapped, I understand that. But they're not being separated from their families by Trump. No. But there are these illegal aliens that are separating our lovely young women in particular, men too, young men too, but you know, permanently from their families. And we just got to get our priorities straight. And goddamn Elizabeth Warren for her Luciferian bullshit. Yeah, I got mad about that one. I really did. I really did. We could talk about that, but the coup situation, but I'm not going to. I want to run into something else here. I want to get back to Admiral McCraven real quick, and then I'll go to the chat. Admiral McCraven's, and I mean, I talked about him the other day. He's the admiral that I talked about. He was violating the UCMJ. He could actually be court-martialed for what he's doing. If the Secretary of the Navy decided to do that, well, anyway, the Navy could go after him, and I think that they should. But military intelligence is still infiltrated by the CIA. It's still part of the intelligence apparatus, and the mere fact that the Q, for instance, was supposedly military intelligence with a Q clearance, which doesn't make any sense. But let's just give that out there. If in fact it was military intelligence, as I said to Paul, this whole Q thing is one of the sloppiest operations I've ever seen. Plus, are we going to trust, as President Trump said early on in his campaign, are we going to trust our country and our destiny to the intelligence apparatus, no matter what it is? Look how it's been almost wrong totally for the last 60 years in its approach and its information. Was that done because they didn't know any better, because they were incompetent, or was it by design? Either way, we don't need to trust them. Okay? So McCraven, I'm very worried for him to come out knowing that he's violating the UCMJ and could go to Fort Leavenworth for it, the prison there. Why is he willing to step out and say the things that he has? My suspicion is that he thinks they're going to win, meaning the coup. This is serious, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think people really realize what happened there with McCraven. Because in actuality, of course, General Petraeus feels the same way as McCraven. And so do a lot of other generals, general officers, flag officers, admiral or otherwise, that came up through the Obama time period. This was a red flag to me like no other, that he would take that strong of a position. Petraeus has played it, but he's been kind of back in the background, just doing things. But for McCraven to say what he said, he's pretty certain that they're going to win. And we better have our situational awareness on high. And I hope Trump does have some way to counter this, because it didn't bode well, especially with all this going on with Cohen. I know people say, well, no, it's really not that serious because it's not really going to touch Trump and all that. That's not the issue. The issue is politics is perception, and warfare is perception. We're in a lot of danger. We absolutely are. Sorry, somebody asked me for good information. You tell us something good today. Unfortunately, I don't have any. So this thing with McCraven, I think it's an indication that they think that they're going to succeed. The coup. That's how serious it is. Also, I wanted to bring up something, and I have to, and I didn't really want to go here. I listened to MAGA News Network last night. Uni was on it. I didn't listen to the whole thing, but I just want to say to people, in a general term, if you have to attack a person's character, personality, financial position in order to prove your point, that you're, in other words, you disagree with somebody and you have to attack them personally based on everybody has financial problems, everybody has personal problems with the opposite sex, whatever, in their personal lives. To go and attack people on that basis tells me that you're suspicious, that what you're doing is suspicious. The only thing that I think that who I'm talking about here is their attack on Bill Mitchell. Now I realize there's a thing with a lady by the name of Wortham, I think, who revealed all this information. But then I got to say to myself, what in the world for? If she and Bill didn't hit it off and she found out stuff about him, so what? Does that mean everything she says about him now is right? Hey, I've had people say things about me that weren't true. So am I just going to believe something? And I don't mean to put whatever her name is, Rachel or Robin Wortham or whatever her name is. I don't want to put her down, but that doesn't mean we have to fully accept everything she says. Again, I'm very suspicious of Bill Mitchell. again, I don't have anything against him personally. I don't like his style. People don't like my style. You know, that's why we make choices about who we want to follow and all that. The only thing I ever saw that was going for Bill Mitchell was a smile. For people who like that kind of smile. I don't. But, you know, but to attack him for all of those other reasons just seemed unconscionable to me, and I had to make a public statement about it. I love MAGA News Network. I love what those guys are doing, but I think they're a little, they've got a, across the board, they got a little too much testosterone for the program. I'm going to ask them to back off a little bit. You know, they don't need to do that. They're probably going to say, well, who are you, Potter, to tell us anything? I'm just saying how I felt about it. I felt embarrassed that you would go there. I felt very embarrassed because I've wanted to support you. You don't need to go there, ladies and gentlemen, that belong to that. You just don't. Stay out of that realm, please. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Good morning again, everybody. A little late. Am I reptilian? Yeah, the pastor said I was. Yeah. You know, when you're on video, you know, there are pixels, there are frame rates, there are all kinds of things. And of course your eyes, depending upon lighting and the frame rate and your blink rate and all kinds of other things, can make you change. Yeah, so yeah, he was claiming I was reptilian. So have a lot of other people. But you know, I mean, my denying for me to deny that I'm reptilian isn't going to help them to change their mind, but I'll just tell all of you folks, no, I'm not, okay? I know my pedigree. I know where I came from. I know my genealogy way, way back, and I have no association with any reptile, yeah, no, I don't. Am I drunk? No, I'm not. Okay. No, okay. This is a commentary. Okay, I tell you that. I have a lady here, Tony Blass, says, Roy, you sound like CNN, just the facts. No, we're here to talk. We're here to explore. It's an expositor. I'm not a journalist. Okay, I'm not here to be a journalist. I don't claim to be a journalist. I don't claim to be anything like CNN or Fox, as far as journalists, you know, reporters. I'm here to discuss based upon my experience, my training, my education. Okay, that's what we're here about. And if you don't like it, you don't need to be here. How many times have I said that? Okay, you know? All right. Yes, oh, Jean Lloyd Bradbury. Yes, I did. I did, actually. Absolutely. And I can't see the 1012, I can't see any correlation to that number and what happened that day. I can't see it. It goes to a Hebrew word, yob, yod aleph, bait, and there's just no correlation there. So I don't think so. I think that was probably just a jihadist move, probably not even controlled by the Luciferians at all. Okay, so not all of those attacks are going to be coded messages. 9/11 absolutely was. Absolutely 9/11 was a coded message to honor their god Molech and to call him God. You know, to call Satan God. Absolutely, that's what that was. Thanks for bringing that up, though. I meant to do that a couple of videos ago because you did ask that question. So I did follow up on it. Thank you very, very much. What is CERN about? Ha! Well, go back and look at Unirock. I think he's the best one to use at this point. You know, I'm sure there are a lot of other people that have covered it. I think BP Earthwatch has. I think Jordan Sather has. There have been a lot of folks that have done it. But Uni did an excellent one, and it's not. I think it's one video back. Is it one video back? I'm sorry. I'm going to have to look at it. You know, I'm constantly doing stuff, so I forget, you know, what I've done and where. So let me pull this up and see what it was. And I have the links to his investigation there. Yeah, it's the one called, it's two videos back. It's called Tekel, a commentary on a video by Unirock. Go look at that rather than me telling you a whole lot of information here. That video is about 11 minutes long, and it gives you links to UniRock's series on the entire CERN thing and what was coming out of there. It'll freak you out because these are scientists saying that they got this message. Okay, so go check that out. I think it's the modern form of the Tower of Babel, trying to get to God so that they can replace him. I think that's really what that is. Okay, you know Michael Aquino, ex-Army Intel mind. Well, yeah, I do. I don't know him personally. Colonel Neville, was that your name? Boy, this thing jumps so fast. Colonel Neville, it might be a handle or it might be a real name. I'm not sure. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, there you are. Colonel Neville. Hey, Roy, you know Michael Aquino? I know of him. I've never met him that I know of. Yeah. It's interesting that they give people like Aquino so much leeway, so much press, so much respect, and good Christians they don't. That should tell you something. The problems in the military are big. You can't trust them just because they're in the military. Pete C. The real deal is the race to control, prevent mind control. Absolutely. To stop this panopticon, the nanotech. Yes, I agree. The rest is all diversion, Roy. Please see TruthStream Media. I absolutely agree. I realize that. Yeah, and I've talked about it before. Maybe you don't know. But if you look at how I present things, it's all to show you that is the warfare on us. That's really what it is. But we sometimes don't recognize it. So that's why I talk about these other things. But absolutely. The panopticon that's going in, the nanotech that's been sprayed, placed in our food, etc., all to make us basically walking microphones, walking computers, so that they can do things. I absolutely, and people say, "Wow, that's really tinfoil hat." No, it isn't. No, it isn't. They're getting us to the point where they don't even have to impregnate us with chips. Okay. That's how serious it is. So yes, absolutely, I agree. TruthStream Media, yes, go watch that. If you've never watched TruthStream Media, I wholeheartedly agree. That's Aaron Dykes and Melissa. I think that's her name, Melissa. I might have that wrong. They used to work for Alex Jones, and they went off on their own, and they put out really high quality, excellent information. Sometimes it takes a little time to watch their videos. Sometimes they're quick, sometimes they're not. But regardless, excellent information. So I wholeheartedly support you going and looking at that. Okay, we've been going for an hour and 15 minutes, and I think I better shut her down. Plus, I've actually taken some time off today. I'm going to go do some things, actually the next 3 days. So, again, I want to thank Paul Ferber, Baruch the Scribe, for coming on. I know I put him on a hot light there, and I was going to make it even hotter, but I think we kind of covered the ground that I was concerned about. I didn't want to get into all the technical data because, honestly, folks, that's a fallback position so that you don't address the real issues. Okay, so that's the reason why I didn't let him do that again, to any great degree. All right, we're in trouble, ladies and gentlemen. The plan didn't work if there ever was one. And I just pray that President Trump has some good military folks that he had in that room, what was it, a year ago in October or so, saying that there was a storm coming. I hope he has some people that can back him up because the opposition, the evil side, and they are evil, that have taken over the government. Robert Mueller in particular is an evil man. He has usurped the government of the United States, and Congress has let him do it. Jeff Sessions has let him do it. Rosenstein is a criminal, and so is his wife. By the way, do you know who Rosenstein's wife is? Have you looked at this? I got to bring this up. This is crazy. This is the type of stuff that you find out about, and then you go, oh my gosh. Rosenstein's wife is Lisa H. Barsumian. Let me show you this, because this is important. This is again showing you that this baloney about the plan is all BS. These people are firmly entrenched. Whoops. Let me do this one because I'm not going to be able to see it unless I do it this way. Okay? Let's see. I know it's hard to see. Can you see that? Lisa H. Barsoomian. Barsoomian. She is the fixer. She and Rosenstein have a little, along with their group, their coup group. It's amazing how these people have covered each other's tracks. They're a criminal syndicate in our government at the highest levels. Serious, serious business. All the things, many of the things that have happened to cover Hillary at all, and to go after Trump, Barsoomian, Rod Rosenstein's wife, has been doing from the background. Wicked, evil people, ladies and gentlemen. We're in a lot of trouble. Trump needs some help. I just hope he's got the right kind. I hope we have the right kind. Okay? God bless you. God bless the Constitutional Republic of the United States of America and the Second American Revolution. Keep your eyes on the horizon, your ears to the ground, your situational awareness on high. Prep, pray, stay out of the way. Know that this thing is not resolved. We've got to do well in the midterms. There's going to be a lot of election fraud. There's some tricks that Donald Trump could pull off here that the Dems have set up, that they could fall into a trap. I hope they do. We won't get into that today, but hopefully he can manipulate this due to their Russian narrative, that he can use it against them. I certainly hope so. Like I say, we'll get into the particulars of that some other time. And, of course, God bless President Donald Trump in all of his righteous endeavors. And may the Lord send him the spirit of discernment, that he may know the difference between right and wrong, that it will distill upon him as the dews from heaven. Maybe we need a thunderstorm, a downpour at this point. Not just dews. Maybe it needs to be a downpour. He will know the difference between the right and the wrong and have the courage to choose the right thing. One last piece of information to remind you. I will be on the Kev Baker Show on Monday, the 27th, 3 p.m. Mountain Time. You can make your adjustments from there. I don't know what Kev has in mind. I'm going to let him just kind of decide what he wants to say. He might just give me the floor. I don't know how he's going to operate. He's out of the UK. Has a fairly large program, it looks like. Unirock has been on there and a lot of other people. So, again, that'll be Monday the 27th at 3 p.m. Mountain Time on the Kev Baker Show. You'll find him on YouTube, okay? Just go to YouTube and type in the Kev Baker Show, and I believe it's live at the time. I'm pretty sure it is, okay? All right. Well, wow, interesting day. And again, I can't say it enough. I have to thank Paul. That took some courage on his part, and we just need to close the rest of the loops. Thank you, Paul Ferber. Thank you for talking to us today about the problems with Q and the situation, your worldview, and especially on the situation in South Africa and how it's the same type of thing that's happening in Western Europe and in the United States. Very important to understand, ladies and gentlemen. God bless you all. See you next time.